Welcome to City and State TV. I'm Morgan Peckman. Today our guest is James Merriman. He's the CEO of the New York City Charter School Center. James, thanks for joining us again.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So this has been just a whirlwind year for charter schools so far. I mean, where does it stand right now on the city level and on the state level?
Well, on the state level, from the budget came a series of legislative approvals for charters that really secured the future of the charter movement in New York City. It's what the governor said he would do, and he got it done.
Were you surprised with how strongly the governor came out for charter schools?
I don't know if I was surprised, but we were certainly pleased by it. It was essential to have strong support in Albany. That's where the laws are made that govern charters. And so having the governor come out strong was just essential for us. And as I said, by getting facility funding for us, allowing access to universal pre-K so that we can help the mayor's initiative, we really came out strongly.
And with the mayor, I mean, initially it seemed like he was going to be very adversarial towards charter schools. Seems to have dialed that back to a degree. I mean, what are your feelings right now about the mayor's approach to charter schools?
Look, I think it's evolving. I would say that he would say it's evolving. He's trying to figure out how to make sure that all 1.1 million kids in the system are getting a great education. And I think he's beginning to understand that actually that's what we are also interested in doing as well. We're just one oar in the water of a larger boat, but I think we're an essential component of a larger reform strategy.
What are your thoughts about the U of T contract and specifically these schools that are going to be set aside as kind of experimental labs for educational reform?
Yeah, so on the first, just generally, I'll be honest, no one's seen the contract. So it's very hard for me to have an opinion about what I haven't read. And I have to say, I think it's a little weird for me, for a contract that's worth something like $9 billion, that no one really gets to read it until it's fully approved. At least from the press releases on what these schools might be like, look, it's a great option, but we've had school-based contracts for a long time. The U of T has touted them, ever since I can remember, and the truth is we haven't had much reform at the school-based level. Certainly that has been systemic, so I'm not sure what's really going to be different. I hope something will. I hope the de Blasio administration and the teachers work together on that, but I'm not really that optimistic, to be honest.
Do you feel that the mayor essentially caved to the U of T? I mean, it seems like the U of T got a lot of what its aims were in going into the contract negotiating process. I mean, is that any indication for you of where the mayor's priorities lie in education?
Yeah, again, it's just hard for me to say. I haven't read the actual contract, and until I do, it's hard to have an opinion.
And what do you think? You said you're not sure if things are going to be different for public schools come the fall. Are there going to be changes for charter schools in the fall?
Well, what the law did most importantly was remove the uncertainty. So under the state law now, new schools and expanding schools will know for certain one way or the other that they'll either get space in a district building, and if they don't, that the city will be on the hook to provide them with a rent subsidy of 20% of what they get per pupil. So they're going to have space either way, and we don't get facility funding. We didn't used to until this, so this really secures the future of the charter movement.
When you're talking about securing the future, is that from an economic standpoint? Is it from an institutional standpoint? I mean, how is this going to change the way that charter school operators approach their business model?
Well, I think they're going to be able to plan ahead. In the past, even when Mayor Bloomberg was very supportive of giving space in public schools, in traditional district buildings, it was still hard for a charter to know and plan whether it would actually get space. Now, at least, it won't know whether it necessarily gets space, but it will know that if it doesn't, it won't have to rely on its operating funds to support programs for its children, and that's good for the kids.
there was a very dramatic scene up in Albany when there were the competing rallies, and the charter school rally was significantly larger. And I mean, was that a real demonstration of the political clout that the charter school movement has? I mean, is this a real? I mean, was that a watershed moment for charter schools in New York State?
I think it was an important moment. I think people saw how many parents are willing to go up to Albany and show that they want the school that they choose and they want that choice to be protected. But at the end of the day, they weren't competing rallies. If you look at it, coming out of the budget, what do we have? We've secured the future for charters and the 70,000 kids in them, and and we're going to be able to expand, to grow, and double that number. And at the same time, the mayor, through his leadership, got universal pre-K fully funded. So this was a win-win for this city.
Are we going to see charter school operators try to move into the pre-K realm?
There's no doubt we already have 30 schools that have expressed interest in opening up. It's a very tight timeline, as you know, to get a program up and running for the fall. I think over time, by 2015, we're going to see most of the elementary charters that are able to locate space for pre-K have pre-K. It's just a no-brainer.
When you talk about that time frame, have you heard apprehensions that it's not a realistic time frame that we're going to be able to, bring about this massive new pre-K program in just one summer?
Well, I think even this administration, they're pushing as hard as they can, and they should. But everyone knows, I think realistically, that this is a program that will take a few years to ramp up to where everything is working as it should be. But the fact that you don't have a lot of time to get something done, I like his approach. It's very charter-like to say, let's just go out and do as much as we can.
What are your thoughts on Chancellor Farina so far?
Look, she's a principal's principal and a teacher's teacher, and she's still, I think the judgment is out on where her ways of moving this enormously large boat that is Tweed, that is this 1.1 million students, 1,700 school buildings. I think it'll take a little more time to assess whether what she's trying to get done is going to work or not. Certainly, she and I have a great working relationship, and I like her enormously.
U of T President Michael Mulgrew talked about this adversarial relationship, so that the U of T is at war with the reformers like yourself. I mean, is that an accurate characterization of what are the dynamics at play right now in the school system?
Well, unfortunately, I guess it's an accurate characterization of how he views it. It's not how we view it. We don't view it as war. We view it as trying to educate kids. I'm losing track. He says that the contract is reform, then he says it's not reform, then it is reform, and he's at war with us. Look, I'll let the U of T do what it does. We're in the business of educating children.
What do you think is the greatest misconception about the charter school movement? I mean, there are so many things that have been bandied about, particularly in recent months. I mean, what is the misconception that really gets under your grill?
Well, it's a misconception that I think is the U of T tries to fuel, which is that this is corporate reform and people are making money off kids and it's privatization, and it's anything but. It's about rejuvenating our public schools, making them work for kids. Too often when we have a governmental service, we say, it's good enough. And I think that's not acceptable for the lives of kids. And the charter movement doesn't say that. And so, we're going to just keep on doing what we're doing.
It's interesting. We were out in Buffalo a month and a half ago, and we were really struck by how little contention there is over a charter school issue in Buffalo, how there seems to be almost embraced across the spectrum, because the perspective is anything that improves schools is something that should be embraced. Why is it such a contentious issue in New York City when in other places, even in our state, there can be some sort of common thinking about it?
Look, we don't often say in this city that there are things to be learned from our upstate cities, but boy, this is one. So refreshing to hear. I'm not sure why there's so much contention. I think it is fueled, frankly, by our friends at the U of T. It's unfortunate. I think it's fueled by a few other elected officials. Clearly, the mayor has moved on. He's into implementation. We're into effective implementation, both at the pre-K level as well as across all grades. And that's what's really important.
So what are the next steps for the Charter School Center? What are your goals for the remainder of the year?
Well, it's about making sure that the law is implemented well, and there's a lot of nuts and bolts around that. And then I think we have to look at, upcoming, we'll look at the budget next year. Is it fair in terms of funding? And there are certainly schools that didn't get facility funding, and I think that's something we need to look at very, very carefully as well and work on that.
James Merriman, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.